welcome back to Feed the Hike series. In this episode we're going to talk about menu planning. And menu planning is very important if you're going on a long distance hike. It's important because you don't want to just eat the same old thing all the time. And the other reason is because you need to make sure that you're getting enough nutritional value in your food to help you sustain your hike. So if you're liking the series so far, fantastic, give us a thumbs up and don't forget to push that subscribe button. If you're new to the channel, hi, welcome, I hope you're enjoying it. Don't forget to add a comment in below of any of your tips and tricks that you like to do. Menu planning. Now menu planning can be so confusing because you want to get it right. You want to make sure that you're getting the right food in your diet to help your body sustain itself on the trail, and at the same time you don't want to eat the same thing day in, day out. Let's say you're out on the trail for 30 days and this is your first real big major long distance hike for a whole month. 30 days worth of planning of food is a lot. Now we're not just talking about 30 meals here, we're talking about something like 177 meals over a 30-day plan. Yep, so because you're not just thinking about dinner, you're thinking about your breakfasts, your snacks as well as your lunches and your dinner. So when you actually sit down and you start calculating how much you actually need over a 30-day period, that's a lot, and that can be very scary and very overwhelming to try and work out. So in this episode we're going to break it down and make it so much easier for you to make those plans and decisions on what it is that you need. So for those here in Western Australia that know about the Bibbulmun Track, when I did that one took me 54 days. 54 days I had to plan my meals, so that's a whopping 341 meals to work out, which is a lot. Now when I do go on a long distance hike and I start preparing months in advance, I don't just do it the week before, I start preparing months in advance. And the reason is because a lot of like the dinners especially, I cook up meals that we have at night and whatever's left over goes in the dehydrator. So where I'm eating a lot of stuff that I eat at home. And that's good too for your body because your body is used to that food. I see a lot of people go out into the trail and they've at home been having normal meals, their everyday meals that they would normally have, and then they go on the trail with their 2-minute noodle packets that their body's not used to. And it takes a bit for your body to get used to change of diet. And their bodies don't tend to sit well with that. Meal planning for my long distance treks overseas is a completely different again to what I would do at home. And that is because I can't take a lot of my meals to a lot of these different countries that I travel to. So I have to prepare myself when I get there and buy what I can from the stores that they have there. Places that eat very different and have very different meals to what I would normally eat here at home, I tend to try to eat more of those meals before I leave, so that I'm preparing my stomach for what it's going to get. Because the last thing I want when I get out on the trail and to start changing my diet is my body to say, yeah, I don't know if I like that, and need to flush it out, if you know what I mean, because it's not comfortable when you're out on the trail to have to run and find a tree really quickly. So prepare your body for what it's going to be eating. Get used to it, you know, start your travel diet early before you go. And it's the same as even if you're not backpacking. If you're going to go off to a country that eats completely different to what you do, say India, Asia, or any of those countries that their diet is very different to, say, the Western diet that you might be used to, or vice versa. Try eating some of these foods before you go to that particular country, because then your body's ready and it's used to it, and it's not having a shock. And it does make your trip so much more comfortable, I have to say. So when you're meal planning, let's say you're doing your 30 days, you want to make sure that you have enough food to get you through and you're not running out of food. There is nothing worse than being on a trail. Oh yeah, there is, it's running out of water, but you're being on a trail and not having enough food. And if you're fortunate enough to meet other hikers that may share with you, then you're lucky. But yeah, think about the fact that your body is using a lot of energy and it needs to be fed, and it needs to be fed well. So do make sure you plan to have enough food. So the best way is, you know how many days you're out there, so calculate how many days worth of food that you will need, and then I always add an extra meal in just in case. There's always a just in case meal. And worst case scenario, if you don't want to carry that meal anymore and you haven't used that just in case meal, give it to somebody else who probably hasn't packed enough, you know. So you're better off having more than enough than not enough. You don't know what's going to happen out there on the trail. You might have planned to be out there for 30 days, say, but you end up being, say, for 34 days. Why? Because maybe 30 days wasn't enough time. You might have got held up in a camp spot for a while due to illness, an injury. There's multiple reasons why you may have got lost for a while. These are all just scenarios that I've seen happen. I've walked into camp once and I've met up with a girl there who had been there for a couple of days. She hadn't planned to, but she wasn't well. I've known people that have gone and walked on the wrong trail and got lost, and it's added extra days on their journey. So be aware of that. You might slip and twist an ankle. You might do an injury that isn't severe enough to take you off the trail, but it's enough to slow you down or give you an extra couple of days off, where you just hold up at camp for a while until it heals. So think about the fact that, yeah, you might be going out for, say, 30 days, but you might actually be out a bit longer. Calories burnt while you're out on the trail, how do you prepare for that? Well, that's a really difficult question to ask, and people do ask me that a lot. How many calories do you burn on the trail? So how many calories do you need to eat? Well, I can't answer you that. I can only go by what my body does. Everybody is different and everybody burns calories differently, and everybody requires different calories. So that's something that you have to spend time working out yourself. If you really, really want to know, then get in touch with a sports nutritionist. And I say sports nutritionist because they understand what it is that you're doing a little bit more, and work it out that way. My way of working it out for myself is basically to go out there and listen to my body. And over many, many years of a lot of even shorter hikes, I've worked out that, okay, well, if this is what my body requires, it feels good when I have this amount. I know when I haven't had enough because it's not feeling as good. I don't have the energy, I'm a lot more lethargic. So the best way that I can recommend is listen to your body, what your body tells you. A lot of us just don't listen enough. We don't listen to what our body's saying. So go out on a lot of training. If you're planning a long distance hike, spend the time, the weekends, whatever time you get, and start listening to your body. Even when you're at home, listen to what it is that your body's saying to you. Go out on a long walk in the evening after work, or whatever it is that you do to train, and listen to what your body's saying to you and how it feels when you eat certain foods. You will find the longer the hike, the more you probably will need to increase your calories, because your body will naturally tend to burn more. If you're only out on a short period of time, the calories that you will require are probably more likely the same as what you have at home with your normal daily routine of exercise. You're out on the trail for weeks to months on end, and the further down the track you go, the more your body is going to be burning quicker. So you're going to need to make sure you up those calories as you go along. Now, when I plan my food, the start of my food planning for the beginning of the journey, the food looks very different to the end part of my trip. The end part has more calories, is more, there's a lot more food because you do get hungry, and a whole lot more nutrition. I really focus on the nutrition in that area. The beginning bit, I find a lot, the first week to 2 weeks, I'm not as hungry, and I actually force myself to eat. I force myself to sit down and have lunch because I'm just really not that hungry. I always spend the first couple of weeks where I have to force myself to eat. And I do that because I need my body to repair itself for the next day. Even though I physically feel like that I don't need the food, it actually does, but it doesn't need a lot. I don't need to force it a huge amount on it at that point in time. And as this trip goes further along, those small amounts start to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and just to make sure that my body is still sustaining itself along the way. So I hope that helps. Now, talking about the hunger and the amount of food that your body needs along the way. Now, a lot of people talk about hiker hunger, and yeah, it's a real thing. You have hiker hunger, your body's hungry. And as I just said, you start off here and you start to get to here with your hunger, where you need that food, your body needs that food. But you will see a lot, especially you see a lot of YouTube videos on people going crazy with hiker hunger. Now, the reason they are so hungry to that extreme, where they will sit down and eat a huge family-sized pizza followed by burgers and a bucket of ice cream, the reason their body is doing that is because they haven't fed it properly on the trail. I'm serious, people, feed your body the right nutrients on the trail. You won't get to that level of needing to eat, because you're giving your body the fuel that it needs. And sometimes that fuel isn't necessarily large volumes of food. It is the nutrients that's within that food. So think about that when you're meal planning. Think about making sure that you're not eating just high calorie food. Make sure that that high calorie food is added with nutrients, and you'll find that you won't need to eat this much. It'll be more like this much. Okay, so the easiest way to do it, sit down in the evening and write yourself lists. Okay, write a list of, say, breakfast, and write a whole different list of choices along that breakfast that you would like to take out. The same for lunch, and then the same for dinner. Write dinner and write a whole list of dinners, meals that you want to take out onto the trail, or that you can prepare for yourself to take out onto the trail. With that list is to then do up a chart. I would have the breakfast, snacks, lunch, dinner, and so on, and the days down the side. And then from those lists, I would put a variety through. And I would count how many of those meals I need and put the number next to it, so I know how many I need to prepare. And every time you prepare one of those meals, put it aside. Now, I often will have boxes that are breakfast, snacks, lunch, dinner. And when that meal is already done and ready to go, I put it in the, say, if it's a dinner, I put it in the dinner box. If it's a lunch, I put it in the lunch box, and so on. And as I prepare it over that period of time leading up to the hike that I'm doing, it will slowly increase, and then I will have all my meals. So I'm not there one weekend doing all of it. I'm doing this over a period of time, getting it ready. When I go to the supermarket and I'm doing my weekly shopping, I would add in a little bit more here and a little bit more there, so it doesn't hit my wallet so hard. I'm not going out and just buying it all in one go. I'm doing it slowly over a period of time. So I might pick up some extra snacks like my protein bars and things like that. But then after you've got all your boxes filled, and you have your lunch boxes and your dinner boxes, and you have enough meals, I then would just spread it all out on the floor and put them in day order. So what I do was I would grab breakfast, the amount of snacks I need for the day, lunch and dinner. That's day one. I would put it in one bag, one big zippy bag, and put it aside for day one, and then I would do the same for the next day. So usually the longest I think I've been out on a trail with the amount of food that I had to carry is 10 days worth, and that's quite a lot of food to carry in your pack, and it can be quite a heavy one. On average, it's probably, I would do 4 to 6 days, and I think most hikers, long distance hikers, average around the 4 to 6 days before a food drop. So once you gathered all your food together like that, you know that you're not going to carry that amount of food all at once. You need to do food drops, and food drops are easy enough to organize. You look at the trail, look at where you can actually send your food to pick up for a delivery. So look at the towns that you may be going into or nearby, and quite often you find that you might stay the night in that town. So I would ring the accommodation that I'm staying in and say, hey, listen, I'm walking a such and such trail, I'm going to be coming around this time. You package it up into the box and you post it to that address, or drive ahead of time. Sometimes people can drive ahead of time and deliver their food. Now a lot of people would send it to the post office of a town, or the visitor centres, or I arrange for somebody to come out to the trail with a box and meet me on the trail, and they will give me my resupply box there. I hope you found that helpful and make your life a little easier when you're planning your long distance trail. Don't forget to put your comments in below, and if you have any tips and tricks that you do when you plan, let me know. It's always good to share.